Greetings! It's I, Tantisnar Vandercook, your Lord and Emperor here at the Dracovin Empire, and welcome! Hope you're having a great day. We're going to be diving back into the world of darkness once more, and some more Werewolf The Apocalypse. I've got another changing breed to talk to you about today, so if you're joining me either live on Twitch or on YouTube later on when this is uploaded, welcome! We're going to be talking about the Nagah, the Were-Snakes, which are a very interesting group because in most accounts of other changing breeds, they're extinct. And we're going to talk about that all. But again, if you're joining me, thanks you for joining me. And also, here's the question for the day, whether or not you were on Twitch or YouTube. Have you either played Nagah game, combination changing breed, or been in a game where one is present? Because again, it's one of those things is there are a secret, yet not 100% a secret, as most believe they're extinct, but they technically aren't. It's a weird thing. We'll talk about it. We'll dive into it. And as most times when I start with these videos, these recordings, I like to talk about where you can find information out, because that's a really great place to start out with. And of course, I would recommend the Nagah Changing Breed book. I'm going to go over a bunch of information here, but this book here is going to have all the things, all the mechanics. It's got to have a lot more little details and stuff like that, so I definitely can recommend that. Then also, I would recommend Hangyoke Shipshifters of the East, because there is a significant group within India, and that counts as part of the East. They go into a lot of information on the Nagah in here, too, and there are some within Asia, too. Player's Guide to Changing Breeds, that's a very small book, but we can just say that there. The Werewolf Player's Guide, this would be the second edition, I believe, book of it. Is definitely another one I would recommend. That's where they started detailing things that relate to actually playing them. And then the Changing Breeds book, which was another one, which I think this is I have to check the editions for these books sometimes. I believe this book. Find information out. This is the W20. This is the 20th anniversary one. So yeah. So there is a bunch of information, and 20th anniversary too. There you go, bigger, slightly bigger. Getting book pictures, not always as easy as I want for World of Darkness stuff, it turns out. Anyway, I guess we'll go the bigger one here for this one. And here is the symbol of the Nagah. So, they are a surviving changing breed in World of Darkness. They are were-serpents. A lot of their changing breeds, Fera, consider them wiped out during the War of Rage. And also, one of the things is their purpose is unknown to most other changing breeds, even if you know about them. But what they are is the secret police of Gaia. That's the way to talk about them. Basically, they are assassins and judges who eliminate those Fera that fall to corruption. They are effective about it, but they aren't as effective, and we'll talk about that. They do share a weakness to silver, like Garu, and they do have rage and gnosis. So they are both, they are in a way also blessed by Luna for that kind of things. They do have a strong affiliation for water. There's a lot of their large semi-snake forms are actually amphibious. And one of their forms, anyway, they have a lot of spirits that are in league with water with them, too. They do have a kind of language that is instinctive to them, like many other changing breeds. But their speech, which they call the tongue, doesn't have a lot of vocalization. It relies on pheromones, body languages, so like the coiling and moving around. So even in forms that, I'll talk about it, one of their forms that they can take is deaf, they can communicate with during this form. They can't, though, communicate with other serpents. They can have, threat displays or other similar things, but snakes can't speak. And so they also can't hold up a conversation with them. Now, we do want to talk about their sensory abilities a little bit, because this is an important one, because they do tend to have the best sensory abilities of both human and snake, but they don't always work together very well. They've got good eyesight in all forms, and even in some of their more snake-like forms, well, in their actual, like, serpent form, they have good color vision. As it kind of changes between forms, their sense of smell and taste become much more acute, but one of the things that they suffer from is hearing issues. In their middle form, they can hear just as well as an ordinary human, but as soon as they start going more snake-like, they get poor human, and in their full snake form, they are deaf to any airborne sounds and have to sense vibrations and sounds carried through solid objects. I should be muted for that. So you can see that kind of their senses kind of alter, but they do have some great senses then. The other thing that they have is poison. A very powerful poison that is very fast action, very dangerous. There are some that can spit their venom in any faces to blind them. In a couple of forms, only in ones that are more serpent-like, only spitting cobra Nagah can attempt this. But in their middle form, which I'll give the names of, I'm not going to say them now because I'm going to butcher them if I keep using them, actually have the possibility for spitting from any serpent. And though it is important to note their venom cannot affect spirits, even ones that have materialized in the world. And if you are a Nagah, you are immune to other Nagah venom, so you can't venom yourself. Other little important fact there. Or can't venom each other, I should say. So, let's talk about a little bit about their history. So there have been legends and tales of mythical shape-shifting serpents. Places like India are very well known for them. But overall, Nagah don't have a very big footnote in history. Again, as I said, they were thought to be hunted to extinction during the War of Rage, and most other shifters just didn't care about them. You know, the tales that survive from that time describe Nagah as cold, aloof, not having no purpose in Gaia, basically expendable. And some Gara will even claim they're creatures of the worm, because they're serpents and kind of connected with worm. Yeah, it's not really a great connection. But again, all this is wrong. So Nagah do share some ancestors with the Dragon Kings and the other reptilian shifter of the Mokulet. During the Age of Kings, when reptile shifters were at their perk, they were actually given as special tasks. A task to watch all the other changing breeds and make sure they perform their duties fairly and well. There was no need to reward those that were faithful to their duties and to Gaia. They found their reward in that. But those that betrayed their duties and abused the trust, those were the targets of Nagah. And they were given venom as a job to do this punishment. And it was during this time, and the age that followed it, that they worked openly with their brethren. You know. But the problem is that when you come down to it, the Nagah were also not immune to corruption. And during a very key moment in history, one of their kind fell to corruption. And it was this fall that prevented them from stopping the War of Rage. Basically, it was the corruption of one Nagah, at least according to their information, that allowed the War of Rage to occur. One of them failed, one of them fell, and so many died because of it. Many Nagah died during it, and the very few, those that remained went into hiding. And again, because they were very good at getting into hiding, the other breeds were just fairly okay with saying, they went extinct. Now, they haven't allowed such a setback to hinder their duties. They monitor the cousins, the shape-shifting cousins, marking those that betrayed their duties, And a lot of criminals will meet their ends by their own kind. Because, again, there is a self-governing between a lot of changing breeds. But if there is one that seems like they escaped justice, the Nagah are there. So they sort of like watch and see like, okay, you've betrayed your kind. Are they going to bring you to justice? Ooh, you've managed to elude them. We'll take care of you. You know, but the Nagah are also not perfect. Even when they were at the highest bit of the strength, they still couldn't punish every lawbreaker or traitor. And many shapeshifter betrayed their ideas over millennium and managed to live and talk about it. But the Nagah still don't give up their duty. It seems hopeless, but they will continue to avenge the most terrible of sins that a shapeshifter can do until the apocalypse comes. And so that is what they do in their duty. It's an interesting kind of point to be in. So, they have breeds. The Balaram are human-born, and in ancient times they were nobles, but today a lot of other traits are valued when it comes to the human-born. They have the Ahi, the Nagah-born. Their metis are treated like equals and revered as unifiers in their society. And the Vaski, the snake-born, who do have some trouble adapting to the other forms, apparently. Now, though they are connected with Luna, unlike the warm-blooded Fera, they don't actually have auspices based upon Luna. They have seasonal auspice system that's very different from it. Kamaski, spring, is blessed by the forces of life and renewal, and have an element of earth. Karteketya, summer, are virtuous and true. Their energy promotes the greatest passions to be found among the certain people with an element of fire. Kamsa is autumn. The mind of the target in their... they've got passion... sorry. Brain works. I'm drinking orange juice. They're an air elemental one. And Kali's winter, with coolest blood, vision truest, and they're the most dedicated to the cause, with an element of water. Now let's talk about their forms. And again, you can go into detail a little bit more about the auspices, the breeds, and stuff like that, mechanics behind them in things like the Nagah book. I would recommend that if you want to look, especially if you're playing one, you need to know the mechanics. They have 5 forms, much like a Gyarados. The Balaram, which is basically a normal human, though most Nagah will have very little body fat. They'll be very, very low in that amount. The Silkaram are the almost humans. Hair and skin are replaced with small scales, the face flattens, eyes become more snake-like, the teeth fuse together except for 2 fangs, which retract like a cobra's. This is when they gain their venom. And it is important to note that not only is this venom dangerous to mortals, it can affect vampires, though a vampire can spend blood to resist health levels of damage. So it is affect them. Then we have, of course, their version of the Krynos form of a werewolf, the Azidaka, the middle form, the combat form. And it differs from Nagah to Nagah, but all have this massive cobra-like hood. Many will have basically scars on themselves that makes themselves noticeable to each other. They're able to unhinge their jaws, and they have gills. They are fully amphibious, this form. They have a mass increase, and are basically 16 to 20 feet tall, with the lower half of their body with a tail. Okay, no, due to a 16 to 20 foot tail on the lower half of their body. Yeah, so their lower half becomes a snake's tail. Their arms become snake-like, and the bones in it become vertebrae, allowing them to grapple very easily. Their hands sprout claws that are as vicious as Garus. They gain scales and scoots that have supernatural resistance. Any scars that they had anywhere from in any form stand out very significantly in this form, and they often have very patterned scales themselves that are very colorful. They cause delirium, very obviously. It's the primeval fear of snakes, and they are the embodiment of it, and very few humans can actually, like, take that. Now, the Kali Tahaka is basically a giant snake with two different differences. They're much larger than any snake of a similar kind, especially because they're still cobra-like, have large venomous fangs. They can use a primal urge roll to sprout slender arms in this form, and they do also have gills. They can breathe underwater. And then finally the Vasuki, the breed form, the snake form, which they can be a normal cobra-looking, a rattler, cottonmouth, or other breed forms. So there are other snake breeds out there that you can be. Look at the picture there. So, let's talk a little bit about their culture and organization. So, and I'm going to try my best to go into all the information about these so you understand it pretty well. The Nagah themselves are ruled over by councils of elders called the Sensa. They are responsible for judging, acknowledging processes, giving ranks, access to new gifts. They reinforce the sacred laws, which we'll talk about, punish anybody that deny them, and they choose targets for nests a lot of times, which we'll talk about what nest is to the group of Nagah. They're always comprised of 9 Nagah, 3 Vaski, 3 Balram, and 3 Ahi, basically to maintain balance and justice. They maintain contact with the Wani, the great patron spirits, progenitors of the were-serpents, and decide who's worthy to enter their realms, and they're direct underlings to the crowns. Okay, talk about all these things. So they're interpreting the rule of the Wani. Who are the Wani? They're known as the Dragon Kings, the Lulong. They're the great dragon spirits that are patrons to their kind, and they are the only spirits that know the sacred secret. So, it is another connection to, the East and stuff there, a little bit, but they are the progenitors of the were-serpents. So, the elders, the Sensa, are part of crowns, these groups. And these crowns are tasked, basically these councils, tasked with enforcing judgments and are given geographical areas. So, every crown basically is connected with the Sensa, shares information. It's basically for regions. But crowns are councils that enforce the Sensa. There's different crown reasons. The Nemotan, which is over Europe. Zeka over the Americas. Lungur over Australia and South Pacific. Britria over Asia, India in particular. Yamilka over the Middle East and North Africa. And Sayadi over the Sub-Sahara Africa. I really hope I didn't butcher those too much. And then also below them are nests. So we kind of have at the top, the Sensia, and then below them are the crowns, they're direct underlings, and below them are the nests. And nests are social units of Nagah, usually with 2 to 5 of them, representing different breeds, usually in a group of balance of the breeds. Nests are nomadic. They only kind of come together when they're called for by crowns or Sensia. They have some similarities to Garu packs. They don't have totems. They have some relations to Gaian spirits, but a little different. They do have a spiritual bond, and which does allow them to nominate an opener of the way into the Umbra. And nests don't really have a fixed leadership. Basically, during a crisis, the appropriate leader for the mission will take over, kind of thing. So that's kind of what it is. And oftentimes, these are families, friends, spiritual guides, lovers in this kind of group that are very important. So, they are nomadic, though. So, a Nagah that has renown, because they do get glory, honor, and wisdom, needs to seek out Sensias in order to advance. They basically have to find the Sensias, and then they have to hear the deeds of the nest, deciding what points of renown are given to them, and decide if a rank and gifts will be learned. So it is a quest there, though, a little bit, because of the nomadic nature of their company. The Sacred Laws, which is a code, basically a litany that they follow, which there are 7 laws that are very important to them. And we'll go over them a little bit. Preserve the sacred secret at all cost. Basically, this is maintain the secrecy of the Nagah in order to hide from those that thought them extinct. Honor the 3 mothers. This is devotion to the 3 mothers, which are Gaia, Luna, and Aspa. Aspa being the high spirit of rivers and water. Like the holiest of all the running river water spirits. So, also very important to the Nagah. Punish those who betray the laws. It's basically the plan for the Nagah with Gaia. Never hunt alone. This is the idea of the nest, the Ahi, the Vaski, the Balram, with a proportional judgment in the group. It basically also helps the Nagah from being corrupted by the worm, because if one would be corrupted, the companions would put it down. It's the idea that you work together as one unit, with at least like this balance of the 3 members that you want, because it not only maintains balance of the blood, it maintains balance of perspectives. And, how's that to help reinforce preventing corruption and weeding it out? Remain humble. This law is basically a reminder for Nagah that despite all the strength and power they have, they are tools for the 3 mothers, and should not overestimate them. There are plenty of Nagah that experience the follies of pride during the War of Rage, and, learning your place in the system and remaining humble is very important. Abhor imbalance is the 6th law. You remain the balance in body as well as spirit, the balance between the Balrama, the Ahi, and Vaski, and to try to keep the breed numbers balanced and set it right. So it's sort of like keeping the balance between all 3 bloods together, and the balance of body, spirit. It's a balance in everything kind of thing. And then strike against the corrupter if the opportunity is true. This was a more recent law, and the idea is it commands the Nagah to weaken the worm, as long as it's not violating the other words and fulfilling their duties. It's the idea that as much as they've taken a side position to be still the police of the other changing breeds and take out those that are corrupted, those that fall, those that fail their duties, the thing is the worm and the apocalypse is still a threat. So if there is a opportunity to do something to hurt the worm, and it's not going to affect any of the other laws, do it. It's sort of like, find the opportunity, take care of it. It's the idea that the Nagah still are fighting against the worm, just like many of the others are. And that's an important part of their entire law. So it's a very interesting position they kind of put themselves in with that. I do enjoy the idea of that. So, they have some rights. They call them samskara. Hey, Blaze. They're very different from Gara's rights, because Nagah don't have cairns. And cairns are very intrinsic to a lot of rights, and a cairn's affected by these rights that are very important to them. Were serpents do value or understand the value of cairns, and that they're very necessary to both Gaia and other changing breeds, their versions of them. And, a were-serpent will punish sometimes those whose incompetence result in the loss of one, but they never create or use them themselves. Their nomadic nature means they can't protect any of those. So their rites, their samskara, can be performed any place that has a sacred connection to were-serpents, not just cairns. They can hold their rituals wherever they choose. Most commonly, it's near a river. An island in a river is considered very particular. It can be held on the banks of the river, in the river itself sometimes, depending on the rites. Other common sites deep in a tropical jungle, surrounded by their snake kin, heat of a desert, surrounded by great dunes of sand or little else. They prefer to do this in the light of the moon. For Garou, rites are times of social interaction. Because of the nest structure that the were-serpents organize themselves, there isn't really a social element to the samskara. They're private, and performing them with anybody but your nest mates is awkward and embarrassing at best. The exception of the Sensha conducting certain important rituals for a nest. So there is definitely an exceptions to this. It's when your, the ruling class is doing a particular gift or particular ritual for your nest. And it is a rare but uncomfortable thing for more than one nest to perform samskara together. It would be kind of something of like, they need to perform this rite together, so they're going to do it together, but they're kind of, I guess we'll do it together. Proper performance of it is an element of the virtuous living of the Nagah. Very little emotions shown during it, and they're very formal. Protocol, spirit etiquette are highly valued. Each movement or phrasing must be crisp and to the point. Its elegance, parsimony, great emotion behind it. Even if there is great emotion behind it, it's always beneath the surface. If they let raw emotion come out, it's embarrassing, it's a breach of etiquette. Though it's not commented beyond that. It's recognized that they've breached etiquette, they've been embarrassing, but they won't say anything about it. No, just kidding. They also repeat mystical phrases called mantras. Repetitive mantras are an important part of their rituals. The Rite Master repeats the mantra of a given ritual until the words themselves lose meaning and hang on the minds of the nest like an ungrounded astral object. So, the Nagah will call the other changing breeds the Kura, and they're unknown to a large portion of them since the War of Rage. They were targeted because they were judges, and their snake-like appearance connected them to the worm. So, now very much more than they were before, they are in secret police. It's just been a thing that, because of the War of Rage, the idea of their policing has become a lot more easier, in a way. Now, there are some erratas and some clarifications and some trivia we can talk about before we end the day talking about them. And this is the group of South American Fera from around 1500 CE, when you can see the Nagah as part of the group of them that they were in South America. The renown system didn't come in for a little while, the ones that the Nagah use. And the terms of using glory, honor, and wisdom, which are very similar to Garou, didn't come out till later on. And the other thing is, Nagah are rarely in the Umbra. Many spirits also thought to be extinct, and Nagah keep it that way. In their Kali, Daka, and Vaski forms, spirits will assume them to be snake spirits. In their Balram and Silkaram forms, spirits will mistake them for Mokule. So unless they're in their middle form, most spirits encountering them will just mistake them for other changing breeds. And so most spirits also think of them as extinct. And there were mentions of shape-changing serpents, like in the original rulebook. There were mentions of shape-changing pythons. The Chronicles of Black Labyrinth book did mention some serpent folk kind of during that time. Strider Tribe book mentioned the Children of the Cobra. And they were first named the Nagah and the Nushiwa breed book in 1997. So though they were hinted at for a large number of years, it wasn't until 97 we got a name about them. And the first time they were detailed wasn't actually in their own breed book, but the Hengyoke Shifters of the East in 98. And they are named after the mythical creature Nagah. I put that in a tweet when I announced this episode. So yeah, it's very interesting to see that they were hinted at for a pretty long time in the lore of Werewolf the Apocalypse, but really weren't detailed for, well, quite a bit. I mean, it was since the original came out in 92, where they were kind of hinted at, up until 98 that we actually got, like, details on them. Again, named in 97, but still. For something that came out pretty early. But, yeah, that's the Nagah. They are an actual interesting group. As much as I like talking about a lot of changing breeds in Werewolf the Apocalypse, because it does add variety, you know, we talk about the tribes and the different groups playing werewolves, which are always cool, and I've talked about them a bunch on the channel. The changing breeds add a lot of variety to it, and have a lot of their own cultures and stuff that are very interesting. And the Nagah fill this entire very interesting void, as they are across the planet. They are of so many, and they are, honestly, very unique in comparison to a lot of the others, because they are hidden. And yes, they're not nearly as strong as they were in the past. They've lost a lot. They've taken a lot of damage. They are weak in comparison. But they still do a very important job and are honestly really good at it. And the secrecy that they try to maintain is important. And it's not to say that there aren't probably other breeds that know they exist. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Mokale didn't know they exist. Mokale knows a lot of crap. I would probably have to check each individual changing breed to see which ones would even know about their existence, because they do mention that in a lot of the breed books, what they know about each other and how they relate to each other, that kind of thing. But their entire idea of, like, you don't see us, we're dead, don't worry about it. It's important to them. It helps keep them safe, and honestly, has helped make their job easier. When a criminal shape-changer falls through the cracks, they're there to poison them and, aka, take them out. Slit their throats, stab them in the back. Whatever it's necessary. And they do it as a unit. The nest. And again, I do like the fact that they've added a law to, like, you know, look, man, werewolves are trying, but they need some help sometimes. So if you see an opportunity, stab that worm dude in the neck. You know, just if they need the help. I really like that law. It's just this... It's the patronizing to the goddamn werewolves a little bit of, like, God, man, you're just not doing your job. You murder the shit out of everybody. You're not doing your job now. You gotta pick up the slack sometimes. I feel like that's why they put the law in there. It's just a subtle jab at, you know, werewolves killing a lot of them, and the kind of... I mean, like, I feel like they blame a little bit of themselves for that entire mistake, because they do have in their story one of them falling, one of them failing, and that caused the War of Rage. Which is like, oh, blame themselves to a degree. I mean, they're probably not going to hold werewolves unaccountable, but it's sort of that idea that, like, you know, we could have prevented it. Interesting thought that they have in their minds. Blame yourself a little bit for something like that. It's a big problem that War of Rage is. Maybe something to talk about on its own someday. Maybe I should detail a lot of information on that in a video. Anyway, I should today, because that was a pretty good video about stuff. I thank everyone who joined me live, and anybody that's going to be joining me on YouTube. If you're joining me live, hey, a follow would be great for showing support if you are not following. If you're joining me on YouTube, a subscription there, ringing the bell, liking the video, leaving that comment. Hey, you know, I've asked the question. Anybody played Nagah? It's engagement. Let me know. Or had dealt with one during one of your adventures in a Werewolf The Apocalypse. It's a good question. I also have social media, Discord, Twitter.com. Check those out. And if you want to check out more stuff on the schedule, tabletop stuff is usually Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. Saturdays being more Darkness days, Thursdays being more Pathfinder, Galarian stuff, and Tuesdays being Wildcard. Tuesdays, Thursdays, early afternoons. World of Darkness stuff. Saturdays usually late morning, usually around 11 o'clock. Pretty close on those days. And then I have Crimson Queen, a Pathfinder live play on Wednesdays. No other live plays right now. Some are always in the work. When one gets solidified, it'll be on the schedule. I'll let people know. And discuss tabletop on Saturdays. 6 p.m. I talk about tabletop stuff with my friends. News of the week, deep discussions, things like that. Alright, I think I've shouted out everything I need to shout out, so I'm going to say to you once more, one final time for today, I thank you. I hope you enjoyed. And until the next time we talk about werewolf or something else, I bid all of you out there a farewell.